Okay, and then I like to just check on my YouTube and make sure it's actually coming through real fast. So that we get sound, make sure there's sound coming through and all that fun stuff. And I like to just check on my... Cool. All right. So we'll just leave that over there for now. All right, so jumping in. So thanks for showing up, coming in, doing all that fun stuff. So it's good to have you guys here and coming back a year later from being in the math and writing learning communities, right? Mm-hmm. And you had the morning and you had the
middle of the day.
Yeah, and then you had the morning. I had it backwards in my brain. Being in that room, I've noticed, gets me all mixed up. But so I guess first just tell us like some basic thing. Give us some introduction of like how have you been the last year? What'd you start? Tell us who you are first.
Okay, I'm Phoenix. I just transferred from community college to university, so that's been fun. No, I don't know what else.
Okay, and you're over at ASU now?
Yeah, I'm at ASU.
Okay, cool. And then what was your major again?
Biomedical science.
Okay, very cool. And then
I'm Aless, and then my major is in electrical engineering.
Very cool.
And it's my second year now, so it's been good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then what do you remember about, as far as learning communities go? What got you into the learning community in the first place?
Well, for me, I kind of saw it as like, okay, you're taking 2 classes at once, so like hopefully like it would just kind of like help me get the credits over with faster, so I wouldn't have to like take a separate math and take a separate English. Like I could just take it all together and like get it over with.
Gotcha.
So that's why I felt like going into it, or like before.
Okay, and then Alice, what about you?
Yeah, same here. My advisor, when I had signed up in high school, she had mentioned the same thing, that it's just better to take both at once, because it's better, like she said, just to get them both out of the way, rather than just doing one day and then one the other.
Okay, and so that was going into it. Then, what was your experience like now that you've experienced those learning communities? And we are talking a year later, so I know it might be a little fuzzy, but how would you define learning communities?
A learning community is definitely where, I don't know, for me it's just you're connecting ideas, like you're seeing like what parts of like, for example, math and what parts of English like relate to each other, and then you're kind of like putting that together to like just kind of like expand your knowledge on both topics. Okay,
so it creates a little bit of resonance between the topics?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and same here. It's using both kind of like specific aspects from each subject and kind of seeing how they correlate with each other. And like in the course, we did assignments where like they both kind of tied in with each other, pretty much.
Okay. And to what degree was that weird? Or okay, like if we have the full spectrum there.
At first, like being fresh out of college or fresh out of high school, like it was a little weird, like having to use math and English like in one. But I mean, the directions are pretty clear. Like after all, like you get used to it, kind of understanding that both of the classes kind of like tie into one. And so it never really got like weird. It was more just kind of like, it made sense after a while. It made sense. Like it's something you had to get used to for sure.
Okay.
No, yeah, I agree. Like that's like the first 2 weeks, the biggest thing for me was the fact that like one person or one professor would like teach one thing and then we would like take a break and learn about something else and then go back to something. So that was weird at first, but then once like I got used to it, I was like, okay, like this is actually kind of nice. Okay, so maybe talk about, because you know some of the audience here is going to be future students potentially. So like talk through what was that experience of like what made it a little uncomfortable at first, and then yeah, we'll start there. Yeah. So there's 2 professors in the classroom, so that.
Just right off the bat.
Yeah, especially like coming out of high school too, like you're not used to that. Like maybe like if you've taken other college courses, you might be, but that was a little weird. And then yeah, just the fact that you're like alternating between like, you know, 2 different subjects throughout like the same period of time. Like it was just like, it was kind of weird at first.
Okay. And Alice,
it wasn't necessarily that it was like uncomfortable, but it was a little odd like at first, because I mean you're just so used to kind of learning one subject at a time, and so there would be times where I mean you could be like really focused in math and then we'd stop and then do English. But like I said, it was like a cycle that eventually you get used to, and then like you kind of just like drift away from that problem. It's just you get used to it.
Okay.
That's what I feel like a lot
kind of
of it is
habituate.
getting
Okay,
used to, yeah.
cool. So having both of the teachers in the class, and I know that like in our learning community, like the ones that I teach in, we tend to heckle each other and make is that nice for the students? Is it weird? Does it give you, what does that do?
It's nice just because it kind of shows like interaction from both professors, because even when like we were doing like whiteboard work, for example, both of you would be walking around and kind of helping us. So having that kind of like small connection, like just, I mean, says a lot, because it's not just like you're silent in the corner and Casey was out there teaching, like you were there too. So it kind of just helps the learning experience overall with both of you being there, like, and kind of collaborating with each other, even though it's not both subjects at the same time.
So even though it wasn't my area of expertise when we dug into math, or it wasn't hers necessarily with writing, it was nice to kind of have the same people in and kind of helping.
The interaction, I guess. It was nice to have, like, from a student perspective, to see that.
Yeah, it was almost like having like kind of like a built-in TA, almost like someone extra there to help, even if like, you know, they don't know everything about that topic or subject, like they're still able to help you because they work with that other professor that knows that stuff.
Yeah. Not to make you guys jealous, but one thing we added this year is that one of the Casey's class, one of the afternoon class now has an embedded tutor as well as me. So there's 3 people moving around the room, and 2 of them actually know what the math is. Right? And so that's been it'll be interesting to see how that changes the dynamic. But so since it's related, okay. So. That was one adjustment you guys mentioned. What were some of the other things that, like, if it's first day of class or if it's in the first part of the semester, what are the things that, beyond what you've already said, that make it, what's the uncomfortableness of a learning community first? And then we'll get into, like, maybe what, if there were good things. What other things are a little uncomfortable there?
I guess just, I don't know, it could feel overwhelming to like having such a long class period and then also it covering 2 different topics. I feel like that part is like pretty difficult. It's just, it feels overwhelming.
Okay. And so that's something, again, you have to get used to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was, like, for me, the same thing. Like, fresh out of high school into college was already, like, kind of like a scary experience, because it's, like, it really is a big transition. But, I mean, you get in there, and then it's, like, you're doing English and math at the same time in one period. Like, it was a little overwhelming, like, I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, it was something that, like, you just hadn't been used to compared to, like, high school, for example. Because, like I said, you have the transition from high school to college, which is already one thing, and then you kind of just start, like, right away into like the first day.
Thrown into the deep end.
Pretty much.
Okay. What about like the pacing of assignments? Because like I know that we try to like not have major projects due generally with learning communities, but how did the pacing of assignments looking back compare maybe to the spring courses, or just in general? Like how does that feel?
It was good. Like it was organized. Like there wasn't times where like both of the assignments or both subjects like crossed into each other and I couldn't do it. But it was all kind of like, so we had like Mondays, Tuesdays, it would pretty much be math, and then the rest of the week would kind of be English and math. Like it was like an organized schedule, which I liked because I've always said that like college kind of forces you to have a set schedule. Mm-hmm. But like as far as like pacing an assignment, I feel like it depends on the person as well, because you can either do it the minute you get it or the last minute.
Or try and cram 18 hours of work into the last 5 hours of Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I had always said. Is that it was nice to have. It wasn't times where I was severely like bombarded with work, but there also wasn't times where it was like, oh, like it's a free week.
And in the spring, you didn't have a learning community, right? Last spring or this semester? Like you're not in any other ones. So like having courses that are a slight, like not intentionally synced, like how did that change in the spring or this fall as far as like workload or pacing and that kind of thing?
I miss it because my spring semester, I took English 1 and 2 online, and then I had math in person, so it was completely different.
Okay.
Because I personally like try to avoid an online class because I just feel like I can't focus as much. Mm-hmm. And so like with the LC, for example, I mean you're kind of like forced to be there and pay attention and understand what's going on. But when I had 1 online class and 1 in person, like it was more like I paid attention to math, but English it was like, I'll do that later because I wasn't like in person.
Gotcha. Okay. And then kind of the same thing like about, was it work, like assignments balance?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I think it was amazing because it gave you like a structure and a schedule, so you didn't have to like come up with that yourself. And then if I could like compare it to like this semester, because like last semester wasn't like terrible when it came to that type of stuff, but this semester it's a little bit more difficult because I'm taking like different classes that have different schedules, and it is more difficult to like try to like prioritize different things and like see like, okay, when do I need to do this and like what's most important and just stuff like that. Like this week, for example, I have like 3 exams. I've already taken 2 of them, and then I have another exam next week. So it's like everything all at once versus the learning community. It's all spaced out, which is really nice.
Okay. And you did bring it into the next one. So thinking about the learning community, so some of those are the pinch points. Were there any other like challenges, struggles, pinch points along the way, or adjustments that kind of once you got there, it totally made sense, or just generally, like was there anything what was frustrating about the learning community at some point, aside from my delay in grading, which was.
Yeah, no, I think it was definitely like working on one subject, taking a break, working on something else, and then going back to like alternating between topics. At first it was difficult, but then it started to make sense almost, just because like if you're like learning about something, like the class is 3 hours long, so if you're learning about math like that whole 3 hours, that's gonna suck, and like you're gonna check out really quickly.
Just brain shut down.
If you like break it up, then you're working on something, and then it's kind of getting to the point where you're starting to check out. Then it's like, oh, now we're doing something different. So then you like check back in. Gotcha.
So it's kind of like in the moments where you're kind of having a lull, like your brain's like, I'm done. We shifted topic and it sparked you back up. Okay. And then kind of the same thing. Other pinch points?
I completely agree. Like the whole kind of like doing math for 3 hours, for example. Like it's nice to have it. It was like a little bit odd at first, like I said, but it is nice because, I mean, if you're not good at math and you are just struggling and going through it, like English is a completely different thing at times. So it just kind of is like a refresher for you to kind of like wake up, take a little break from math and then go back to it and then continue on. So it was nice to have that after a while. But at first it is like a little odd, but like I said, it's something that does take getting used to, but at the same time, it's also something that helps you in the long run.
Do you feel like when we were shifting back and forth from topic, like you got used to us doing it, did you end up finding yourself, do you feel like you were better or worse at making those kind of connections in other classes, or about the same?
It was about the same.
Okay.
It was.
So when you got into your spring semester, and say it was like one of your engineering courses or something, if the teacher wasn't shifting back and forth, like do you feel like your brain stretched beyond the class, or no?
It was hard. Like for one of my engineering courses, it was hard because she wasn't like interactive with students. It was just more like she would lecture, take notes on the board, and then kind of like have you just do that all day, like just notes, and then example problems for some stuff. And so like it's a transition that like I struggled with because I can't focus for that long. I can, but I can't at the same time. If I'm there for so long, just writing, kind of sitting, like after a while, I just kind of get tired of it, and I just like it's like difficult for me to like really start focusing on what's going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think like switching between the topics, I think like also that has helped me like just in the like now what I'm doing between different classes, like I'm able to like relate ideas to each other, like for example like chemistry and math or whatever, like those, I mean, they're very, very similar. That might not be the best example, but a lot of the things that I might learn in math might help in like a different class, or another thing, or like a lot of things I might learn in like, psychology might help me in another class. And I feel like now I'm able to do that a lot easier, and it just helps me overall because I've taken the learning community. Cool.
So just for some random academic background, like, or scholarly background, like when you describe it that way, you're kind of talking about we've got these two contexts, and to take learning from here and apply it here is called far transfer. And so one of the things that I like learning communities for when that happens is it kind of puts those closer and gets you used to you doing that, which makes it what's called near transfer. It's like there's just a closer distance in the jumps. And so that's kind of encouraging. So let's see. And then So one thing you had talked about had to do with the active learning kind of comparison, which isn't always what all learning communities do, but a lot of the ones that I've seen tend to have students more engaged, more interconnected. And in the math class, like the math does a lot of that stand-up, vertical, non-permanent surfaces, like whiteboard work. And there were some people who were really frustrated by that, and then some people were like, yay, and then other people were like, I just have to do it. So what was kind of your response to that? And then same thing, I'll get there.
At first, I didn't like it. I was not a fan because throughout, like, I'm using high school just because that was what I was at before.
Yeah.
But it was always like just sitting down and taking notes, like alongside like the teacher, and then doing example problems. So when I got to college and we started doing whiteboard work of example problems, and it wasn't really like necessarily notes, like notes would be on our own time. Like it was really hard for me to do that because I know some people like the whiteboards a lot, but I feel like at one point I was like the only one who wasn't a fan because I was just so used to like, you know, like taking notes and sitting for so long. But after a while, like it got better because it's more like it's there to help you visualize like an actual problem rather than just like kind of sitting there. So I was a fan after like a few weeks. It took a while, but I was a fan.
And so it sounds like you used your high school schema, as they're called, like the patterning from high school. And when you got into this new learning environment, there was a little bit of just kind of, sometimes just new, right? Like the crude style, it's new. Sorry, cartoons. But then it sounds like you then had this experience that when you projected forward into spring, you're like, actually, now that I've compared both, it was nicer to have this more active experience. Is that okay?
Yeah, because even in my spring semester and now that's all we do is this whiteboard work as well. It's example problems and some notes, but the majority of it is whiteboards. In my math class now and last semester and your class as well, it's all been whiteboard work. So it was nice to have because it just kind of gets you in the rhythm of understanding that.
Nice.
Pretty much what the vast majority of it is going to be is whiteboards.
Cool. And then for you on that active learning.
For me personally, so at first I wasn't a fan of it, but now I think it's like the best thing in the world, especially when it comes to math, because while you're doing whiteboard work, you're not taking as much notes, but you're like actively like learning it. And so I feel like it helps with like, first of all, learning something faster, and then also like with your long-term memory. So after like the first semester when we were doing it, like it was like an adjustment, so like I was getting used to it. But then I did it my second semester as well. And that semester, I barely took any notes in math, and I got an A, and like, because I just knew it all right away. Like, I would like practice it right away, and I'm like, oh, I know how to work out this problem, and then, you know, take a few notes if I needed to. But yeah, and then now, of course, like I go to ASU, they're bigger lectures, like we don't do that anymore.
So you're doing more the sitting down thing?
Yeah, it's just all sitting down, writing stuff down, and I wish we did the whiteboards because it was really helpful.
Okay. Let's see. With one thing with learning communities, so we've got we've been talking a lot about kind of the academic side a little bit. Another part of learning communities is the community. So I'm curious how both when you were in the class and then kind of since then, how did that affect your interaction or connection, friendship, relationships with other students? Yeah.
So for me, like within the class itself, it did force me to like talk to people more. Because usually when I go to school, I go to school, I'm there for myself. I like get my stuff done and I leave. But it forced me to like actually like communicate with other people, and like, you know, if I was like maybe confused on something, it was easier for me to like confront someone and be like, hey, like, how do I do this? So within the class, it was definitely like the whole learning community was helpful for that. Outside of class, yeah, I'm still the same. I'm still kind of like go to school, get my stuff done, and leave.
Okay, so in the class, and you tend to be a little more introverted?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, just check. So in the class, it kind of pushed you into social interactions and asking questions. And do you feel like even in the class, even if you're a little more kind of to yourself, that in that class it allowed you opportunity to kind of open up and connect with other students?
No, yeah, it definitely did. And also, that was the only class ever since I started college where we had like a little group chat, and so if we had questions on like any of the homework, we would ask it, and like people would help.
Okay.
And that's like the only class ever that I've had that in. So yeah, I definitely built like a strong foundation for a community.
Nice. And did the group chat last even a week after the course was over? Like, did anybody ping and say, how was your Christmas, or how's your new semester?
I think someone said a little something, maybe like here and there, but recently no.
Okay.
But for maybe a little bit it did.
Okay. And how many people were in the group chat?
Maybe about 10 or less. So not a lot, but a good little group.
She said 10 or less and then said not a lot. That's a huge amount of students in a group chat. I mean, maybe not, maybe you're cooler than I am, but if I get more than 3 people in a group chat and they're, and even posting once a week or whatever to connect, like that's a big, so that's cool. All right. Well, so Alice, for you, how did and you seem to be a bit more extroverted if like my interactions with you are more.
Yeah, at times. With you, yeah, it was.
Okay.
I felt comfortable like around you because I joke with you a lot. I'd say, hey Greg or hey Gregory at times, which is disrespectful, but shouldn't say that. But yeah.
I mean, I told you could call me Hey Dude or Dr. Egg, so, the bar's really low. But yeah. And unfortunate for him, like, we found out that we go to the same gym, so every now and then he'll be like he'll catch me doing bench press or something, yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah, like kind of to tackle what she said, a lot of the collaboration in the class it plays like a huge role. A lot of it is collaboration, and it like kind of forces you to, like she said, to talk to people. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I liked it because there could be something, for example, like on the math boards when we're up there in groups, because it was always in groups, that you don't understand like at all. But then the 2 people next to you understand like a huge amount. And so a lot of it like tied in with each other with like they could help you. And like just with a lot of the collaboration that was in the class, like everyone was helping each other at one point. The first few weeks was distant, but like me and I'm sure you remember Mo, like Elijah,
all them.
They were all kind of like started to help each other and like talk to each other more, which was nice to have, because in college, like I had a 7 a.m. before your class and not a soul spoke in that class, not a soul at all. And so when I got in your class, like it was just way different. The environment, it was kind of more comfortable, and everyone was helping each other at one point with specific things.
Okay. And so that was, so inside the class, you feel like you definitely had, like there was a comfort level with the other students, and an interaction level with the other students that was much higher. How did, outside of class, either during the semester or after, like since then, how has interactions with those same students or?
It's been good. Like, for example, me and Elijah took like some classes together last semester. Mo, I've always been cool with Mo. It's weird, like all of his friends, like I know and I've known them forever, but I've never met him.
Oh, that's funny.
And so yeah, exactly. And we've been cool since, but me and Elijah took the same classes, and he's actually become like a really good friend of mine, because like we've helped each other like a lot on assignments, especially with our last engineering class. It was not pretty, but I feel like we got a lot closer because of it, like because of your class too. Like we'd bring up stuff that happened in your class and like wonder what Greg's doing.
That weirdo, yeah.
So, it's been nice to have that. Like it definitely created like relationships. Same with Cameron. Yeah. Like I'll see Cameron here and there, and I'll say what's up. Like just kind of like not obviously best friends, but just relationships are there. Yeah.
There's connection. Okay. You still see him around here?
Cameron, I haven't, but Elijah, I'll text Elijah all the time, like here from there, and just what's up, how he's doing.
Nice. And did you guys purposefully register for the same engineering classes and stuff? So you felt like this was cool, so let's keep it going, kind of thing?
Yeah, because we had talked, like I think it was the very last day of your class we had talked, and he had mentioned that he was doing the same class as I was, and I was like, well, we should probably do them together. Nice. And yeah, we ended up taking them together.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. So, what advice would you guys give for someone who is entering into a learning community for the first time?
I mean, definitely be open to collaborating, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help you the most in that kind of a class, especially because, like, I remember, like, if not all, like most of like the math quizzes and stuff like that, it was all like a partner quiz or something like that. And so that's going to help you the most, and like learning those skills of like working with someone else is really important. Also, I don't know, just being open to being flexible, because it is like a big shift at first, but then eventually you will get used to it.
Okay. Kind of same thing over there.
Yeah, I'd say be patient. It's like a really big one because it's not going to be like, pretty as soon as you start. Like it's going to be a lot comes at you. But I definitely say like be open to ask for help because at the end of the day, it's like what you guys are there for is to help us and kind of like be open to collaboration because you'll see like that eventually like everyone is kind of there for the same thing. And so that collaboration and having you guys there is like just be open to that and kind of just accept that, if you need help, like there's help there and more,
Let me see. Do you feel like when you had, like, because you mentioned having the math and English separate classes in the spring, right? Mm-hmm. Compared to the interaction you had with me and the other math professor, same thing. Do you feel like you were as connected to professors in other classes, or in the spring when they were when it wasn't connected?
Oh no.
Like, so what is the comparison between like the connection you were able to develop either just that semester, like going to office hours, that sort of thing? Talk through a little bit, like what was it like connecting with professors in the learning community versus outside the learning community?
Yeah, like after you in the learning community, like you really develop like a strong relationship with your professor, which for me was kind of rare because, like with my other professors, like I couldn't talk about like my personal life or like my goals with my professor, but with you I could, and with Casey I could. Like I felt comfortable like talking about if I had a problem at home or if I had a problem in general. Like I'd feel comfortable going to YouTube, but with my other professors, it wasn't like that. It was kind of more like just, like they were there for just the course and that's it. And which is obviously like, that's a given, they're going to do that. But
yeah.
It's rare to find like kind of a genuine connection with the professor. And that was nice to have because even now, like it's kind of just like odd with my professors. Like my math professor, I don't even know if she knows my name sometimes because it's a big class.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I would say is that it was nice to have that, and it's way different than what it was in my first semester compared to now.
Okay. That's the same thing.
Besides the learning community, there's only been one other professor where I've been able to like really connect with. So yeah, overall the learning community definitely helps with connecting with your professors, but it also kind of teaches you how to connect with them as well because now, like, especially if I'm starting to struggle in a class, I now know how to approach a professor and like try to like find that connection versus if I hadn't taken the learning community, I wouldn't really know how to do that.
What about the learning community created that pathway for you of interaction process?
I think it kind of goes back to what he was saying about, like, this was like a while ago, but how when you guys are teaching the class, you guys kind of almost teach it together and like you guys like collaborate back and forth, and I feel like that just gave the whole class a sense of community. Like it kind of like set like the standard of like how it should be, and so that just made me feel more comfortable. Okay.
And then once you started interacting with us, it made it easier to interact with other professors.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're humans, or like you said.
Yeah, mostly just how to like kind of like approach them.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. What else is there kind of on your mind if you're thinking like across the board, from the actual work to relationship building to any other part of your college experience? How is there anything I'm not asking that like you can think learning communities helped with this or kind of took a bit to adjust in or out of?
There was like something I thought of earlier and then I forgot it. Do you have anything?
Yeah, it's your schedule. It really does force you to have a schedule because there would be specific due dates for assignments, but you guys would always mention what to do first and what to focus on next. And so if I remember, every Tuesday there'd be a math quiz, and then Thursday there'd be a quest, and then the following Monday there'd be an exam. And so it would kind of like, what I mean by forcing you to have a set schedule is like it would like help you spaced out like what you were going to spend your time on. So maybe Sunday, Monday, study for that exam, and then Wednesday do English, Friday English, Saturday, Sunday English, or you kind of choose how you want to go about that. But it's helped a lot, and that's something that I always remembered is that it spaced out your schedule. Compared to now, it's kind of not like that for me because it's kind of scattered, but set due dates was really nice to have.
Do you feel like now you're doing a bit more of the putting out fires thing? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like it's just not as rhythmic as a weekly kind of rhythm?
It's not as like rhythmic. It really isn't, because like there's some weeks where like I have like way more circuits and math homework, and then there's some weeks where I have some of my like CRE homework, for example, which isn't like incredibly hard. I
won't tell them you said that.
It's something, but so it's not like kind of like a set schedule rhythm.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it definitely helps with that. Like now for me, like for example, like the past 2 weeks have been so bad, so terrible, because I've had like so many different things that I've been needing to do, and I feel like I've been behind. But now all of a sudden I feel all caught up, and then I already know it's gonna like catch back up to me. Like,
so you're like breathing, and then you're like, but the fact that I'm breathing means that next week's going to be hard.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
winter's coming.
Yeah, no, that was like one of my favorite parts about it. And then also just even like when you're going to like 2 separate classes, like maybe you might be going like Tuesdays and Thursdays, like you have like 1 class for math and 1 class for English on each of those days. Just going like what was it? It was once a week for 3 hours.
Yeah, we did like the big Monday chunk basically.
Yeah, it was just once a week for 3 hours. So that was really nice too, because it left you with so much more time during the week to get other stuff done. So that was really helpful as well.
Okay. We did a couple specific activities too in that class. So we had like for instance, like the kids book, that was a huge chunk of our semester, right? Since that was kind of a unique project, because we had like ASU professors come in and do eye tracking with us, and then you guys got to share with kids. How did you feel like that helped you either with the content or with the interactions? What was the response with that particular project, just because it was kind of a funny one?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped me with the content, because I felt like I was actively learning the content while doing it, or like putting the content into practice on the English side, because a lot of the class did kind of feel like math heavy, but then when we did like the big projects, I feel like I was really like taking what you were teaching us about and like applying it and like actually doing it. So yeah, like especially like the whole like designing the book and like what was it? Like how to structure it and like all of that stuff, like the 7 aspects of writing, like that, it really helped me. And like even that 7 aspects writing helped me today, while I'm writing stuff. So
Nice.
Being able to practice it first, like allows me to like now be able to also apply it to my writing.
Gotcha. And then how, do you remember the interaction with the kids and that? Like how did that go for you?
Oh, yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. Just like, like being like, okay, let's read your section now, and then if they don't want to read it, like read it for them. But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, they humbled me.
What do you mean?
They humbled in my drawings. So I'm not an artist, but they were just eating my drawings alive. They were like, "What is that?"
What's this blob?
Like, okay,
So harsh.
No, it was unique to have, because like for the kids book, it really shows you that like each of the subjects serves a purpose. And so when you're reading that book to the kids, it's kind of showing you that like they pay attention. And so incorporating like, your 8 aspects of writing and then math into one, it's showing them that like it catches the kid's eye. And that's kind of like, it's a profession. Like there's books that people sell that literally like target towards kids. Mm-hmm. And so it was nice to see that, because you kind of get the idea that like both of the subjects, even though they're tying in with each other, they both use each other to make one thing. And so it was nice to see that and kind of use that.
Nice. With so kind of with the connection, like you guys had said, like interacting with professors kind of taught you how to interact. Were you guys already like cool with interacting with kids, or did that give you a little bit more of a comfort level with someone, 10, 15 years younger than you?
I'm already pretty comfortable with kids, just because I have like 4 younger siblings, and like I feel like I used to be around kids a lot, but it was still like a different experience. Like I'm not used to like teaching a bunch of kids that like I don't know like anything. So it did make me feel like a little bit more comfortable being around kids in that kind of a setting.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, same here. It was just making me a little bit more comfortable. My sister's a second grade teacher, and so I've always meet her students, and it was like I was kind of already used to it because I was always around her students that semester, and so it was nice to see that just they didn't really. They were good. They were cool.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Okay. I know we're getting close. Well, sort of close on time. I kind of, like I said, an hour. But what? If you're talking to faculty or maybe the president, vice president, the cool people at the college, or that sort of thing, what would you tell them about learning communities if they're the audience? Like other faculty who are considering learning communities, people who are considering whether how much we should grow the program, that kind of thing. Whether if I go and share at other colleges, like what's the thing that you think they should know if that they may not realize in their role as faculty or as administration or something?
Yeah, I think learning communities, they are definitely overall more engaging than any other like structure of a class. I feel like they really do keep you engaged, and like I said, they also help you with like making little connections to like putting things together, which is really helpful overall.
Okay.
The class serves a convenience, and what I mean by that is like it's one day out of the week. It's not multiple times throughout the week. And so for someone who works or something like that, like it really does serve a purpose because even though it's just one day a week, like there's a lot in that class period and like you're really engaged, you're going and you're moving and you have your assignments for the week and it's nice to have and it's something that is different than just like a regular English class 2 times a week or a math class 2 times a week. Like it's kind of like, crunched into one, but it makes sense. And I say it serves a convenience because it's like, it gives you that whole week to do work for the class. And it's just one long period. So it's not like as bad as like, I guess you could probably think if you're first starting.
So that's an interesting we can kind of side trail this a little bit. Because you've brought up modality a little bit. You said in the last spring you had online version of writing.
Yeah.
Did you guys, either of you have full in-person, like the 2-day-a-week classes for any of your other courses?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And so, have you taken online classes only? Or just hybrid?
I've only taken hybrids, yeah.
Okay, so with whichever modalities you've used, like you're saying there's a convenience to the hybrid version. What was some of the challenges with those differences in modalities, either the in-person where you've got the multiple times a week thing versus a one time a week, or the full variety that you might have? Like how did that change just learning in general? So maybe not necessarily LC, but just modality in general.
Yeah, like having the once a week, like in person, and then the rest was like, I mean, you guess you could say like online because like you're doing it yourself. That was definitely nice, like just having it once a week. I've also taken classes where, like for example, like my biology classes that I took, those were all hybrid, so we would only do the labs in class, but the whole lecture part was online. Those are definitely. And like, okay, so we're doing the labs in class and then we're doing like the actual learning at home versus I felt like in the learning community, we did more of the learning in person versus like, when I did like my biology class. So it's definitely more helpful doing that. And then also we have just like your in-person classes. Those are nice, but at the same time, I feel like they don't force me to practice as much outside of class. So I feel like the learning community is definitely like a really nice, like happy medium. Like you kind of get like the best of both worlds.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was the same for an LC, but even though it was just 1 week, it wasn't like you guys just kind of threw us and let us alone the whole week. Like you guys were very open to help, like throughout the entire week. So I didn't really see a difference from my Tuesday, Thursday now as like having it 2 times a week compared to year 1. Like I still had the same amount of help that I do in yours, or more in yours than I do like now, for example. And so I don't think it was like a crazy like difference. You know what I mean?
Okay. And so when you have so you said there's a convenience to that hybrid mode versus the online. So convenience, I hear you say, versus in person, in the sense of like it's one day a week, you kind of get the full chunk and it's focused. So that allows you flexibility with your schedule. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah.
And then how like online is super flexible, right? But you also said it was harder to connect. So talk through a little bit of like that compare contrast.
Yeah, and that's a big one for me because, I mean, online, like just the simple fact is you don't have the luxury of having an in-person and an in-depth explanation. Because I promise you, watching a video of a lecture and having the lecture appear is two completely different things. For me, at least as a learner, and that's something that I've always struggled with is I cannot like look at a screen and try to learn. I'm a visual learner. I am, and so that's probably one of the biggest things that I've had to get used to was there's a difference between having the luxury of having that in-person class and then online, like you don't have that. It is at your own pace and it's very flexible, but depending on the person, and in this case me, I'm a visual learner and I can't do it through the screen.
So did you take any online classes this semester after realizing that in the spring?
Yeah, I took digital design because that was the only class that was left, and it's something right now.
Okay.
Because a lot of it is just like video lectures, but it's a little hard to focus because it's just not like the same as like a visual, like having him up there explaining everything and how, circuits and K-maps work and stuff like that. And so, yeah. And
where you can kind of raise your hand and ask the question and interrupt. Do you, for either of you, do you guys, whether in the hybrid or the in-person version, is it easier to kind of do the talk to the professor before or after class thing rather than messaging them through Canvas or email or text message? Because I do that too. But is it easier to do that kind of in the in-person versus reaching out separately? Did that question make sense?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that just honestly depends on the professor themselves. Like, for example, you have a phone number that we could reach you at, so that makes communicating with you super accessible. Versus other professors who they're don't message me on Canvas, don't do this, only email me or only come to my office hours. So I think it just depends on the professors themselves, and you, for example, you made it very easy for us to communicate with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, I mean, if I was texting over the weekend and needed help on an assignment, I'm going to see you Monday. So it did make it easier because maybe you weren't really understanding my question over text, or I wasn't understanding your direction over text, but we still had you in person to where we could ask. And so then same thing with the professors. There's some professors that just have in the syllabus, do not email me in all caps. Yeah, and so it's Canvas only, but then they say it's a 24 to 48 hour response time. And so, I mean, it's way different with you. There was times where I think I texted you at 11 p.m. asking for help, and you would answer.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I'm if I'm awake and the phone's there and, there's not a person in front of me. Yeah. And that's kind of the standard practice is the 24-hour, 48-hour thing. And there's a reason I didn't have a lot of assignments due on Saturday and Sunday because, one, you guys, students tend to text when assignments are due. And so I'm I try and put assignments due when it's convenient for me because I know I'm going to get messages. But it also works, we try and pace it out. All right, well, so final question, any final things you want to say about learning communities that we haven't said yet, or that you want to, or things that you want to make sure that you reiterate because it's important, good, bad, or ugly?
Yeah, I say just definitely be open to being part of a learning community because I feel in the long run, it really does help you, it really does help you in the future with being able to communicate with others, and then also, like I said, putting ideas together. Those are my two big takeaways.
Okay. So there is a social and an academic kind of benefit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and mine are the same. The first one would be definitely be open to collaborate, be open to ask questions, be open to take initiative and look for help. But another one would definitely be college is where you make it. So I think if you really put in the effort and the time, it's going to be not a breeze, of course, because nothing comes easy, but like invest your time and kind of like create a schedule for yourself, and it'll all make sense. Like in the end.
And did you feel like learning communities helped you establish that need for a schedule, or they modeled a good schedule?
Oh yeah,
Is that what
it
you're saying?
definitely like kind of forces you. Like I said, I've been saying that because in college, like the last thing you want to do is do everything last minute, and because it sucks, like, and it looks bad. So yeah.
And it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Cool. Well, good. Thanks again. Thanks for coming in and talking with me. And it's exciting to hear that you're at ASU. It's good to see you and you're pushing through, right? You've got one more semester? Two more semesters? Cool. And so you guys are good, making progress. As always, as I tell my classes, you're always welcome to text me if you need anything. If you don't have anyone cooler in your life to ask a question about, I'll try and help you or get you to someone who can. So just keep that in mind. And thanks for coming in.